Hello and welcome. My name is Bobby Lynn Kekik, and I'm the Director for New Student Programs. I have the wonderful privilege of working with faculty, staff, and students to coordinate the onboarding and orientation experiences for our undergraduate New Falcons. Thank you for joining us today for our Falcon Live Chat on the student life experience. We'll cover topics such as equity and inclusion, engagement, health, and living on campus. Throughout this presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them using the Q&A feature at the bottom. We're also recording this, so if you do choose to view this at a later date, please submit any questions that you might have to us via email. And lastly, the information and content that we're sharing with you today is relevant as of December 16th, 2020. Over the next few weeks, if anything changes or we have any updates, we will be posting that at our Back to Bentley website. And for all of our new Falcons, we do encourage you to continue to check your email throughout the next few weeks for any updates and reminders. All right, let's go ahead and get things started. Let's begin with some introductions from our wonderful panelists.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Lookner. I am the Associate Dean of Student Equity and Inclusion. Looking forward to hopefully meeting all of you either in person or electronically one of these days soon.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nicole Shabbat-Weefrich. I'm the Director of Student Programs and Engagement here at Bentley and also work closely with the new Student Orientation Program. Very happy to be with you this morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Julia Matthews. I'm the Interim Director of the Health Center and very happy to welcome you today.
Good morning. My name is John Piga. I'm Associate Dean of Student Affairs and looking forward to welcoming you all back to campus.
Christine, do you want to kick us off?
Great, thanks so much. I think there's actually a slide before this. If we could slide back one just so I can introduce the offices that I work with. There we go. Thank you so much. Sorry about that technical difficulty. So I'm happy to be here from Student Equity and Inclusion. And so our area is comprised of really 4 primary offices that will work with our students. So we have the Center for International Students and Scholars, which primarily focuses on assistance for our incoming international students. So we help with immigration assistance. We help answer questions and help with adjustment for our students who are both out of the country as well as those who are coming to the US. We also have our Multicultural Center, which focuses primarily on domestic students of color. So students from the US who identify as Black, Asian, a variety of ethnic identities and racial identities. Our center is here to help those students and to form a nice community and welcoming space for them. In our Spiritual Life Center, we have a variety of religious identities and religious organizations represented. We have quite a wide variety of them. Jewish students, Christian students, Hindu, Muslim. We have a bunch of student orgs as well as a variety of interfaith chaplains that help our students provide spaces for their spiritual growth and spiritual identity. And then our Gender and Sexuality Student Programs Office is just as it sounds. It is an office that focuses on gender identity, particularly women's issues, and it also focuses on the LGBTQ+ students in our community. So it's a support space for all of that, all of those students as well. So within Student Equity and Inclusion, we have a variety of offerings that we wanted to share with you today. I am certainly not going to be able to share everything that we offer because there's too many things, but I wanted to just highlight a few of those programs and services so that you could get a sense of what Bentley is like and what you can get involved in when you come to Bentley. I'm going to highlight 2 of our programs. One is the Mosaic program, which is a welcome orientation program for students of color. And they do come together before classes start and bond and connect and get to know our staff and our team, which is a really, really nice opportunity. And many of our students say that that is where they form their first and most lasting friendships at Bentley. We also offer programs such as our Worldview program, which is an opportunity for international students to become ambassadors and present in classrooms around the campus to be able to share their experiences, share their point of view, share their knowledge, and to help our other classmates learn and grow from the variety of experiences that we have from all around the world. In terms of services, I mentioned that we have several religious services. We also have drop-in hours for all of these offices that I've mentioned. So there are staff available to serve our students at any point in time. And our students can drop in and connect with the staff. The nice thing about Bentley is we are a size that allows us to really get to know some of our students quite well. So we serve them in that way. We also have a student success coordinator, which is one of our services that we're most proud of. It's someone who actually transcends all of those offices, and she helps to help all of our students really transition and get up to speed and get the assistance that they might need to be able to be successful at Bentley. Before I move on, I wanted to take a moment to talk about campus culture. As many of you are aware, it's been quite a year in terms of culture for racial justice and racial injustice. And I wanted to highlight that I think Bentley has really made a lot of improvements in this area. We are, just like every school out there, we are not perfect, but we have really been working very hard on some of these issues. And I'm quite proud to be a part of this area, which has made progress in both our staff culture in terms of how we are all working and dedicated to this issue, as well as forums and spaces for our students to really voice their opinions and to be heard and to be listened to. And we've made a lot of progress and efforts on that front, which I'm really excited about, and always happy to talk for hours if anybody wants to reach out and talk to me about that. Just one last final note on our campus culture. We have a few lounges right in the front of our student center when you walk in, and I think that it's really, it exemplifies that we really care about providing spaces for our students. So we have a lounge for our multicultural students, and we also have a lounge which is called the Gender and Sexuality Student Lounge, and that is both for women as well as LGBTQ+ students. So we really have a culture of welcoming, inviting, and providing safe spaces for our students to grow and thrive.
Great. So thank you so much, Christine. And I'm excited to pick it up from here and talk a little bit about our engagement, student leadership and involvement on campus. We have an incredibly robust student body that really believes in getting involved, making a difference, impacting change on our campus. And they do this in so many different ways. And I'll give a brief snapshot this morning of some of the ways we see our students getting involved and building traditions on campus. I'll start this morning by sharing a little bit about our student organizations. We do have over 120 different student organizations on our campus that we support through the Student Programs and Engagement team. I've listed some examples, of some categories of these student organizations here this morning, but really encourage you to go to our campus groups platform. I've listed the link here. You can also find it on our website. And this is an online and virtual engagement space for our student organizations. So each of our organizations has a page where you can look at their membership, their mission, some of the programs and traditions and meetings that they're offering, and really get a sense of what you might want to get involved in when you join the Bentley community in a more active way come January. So this is a great way for you to be doing some research and really look into what does it mean to be involved at Bentley and what are some opportunities that I might be excited about. And we'll have the opportunity in campus groups as well at the start of the spring semester for you to join us for virtual activities, fair programming, and for other engagement opportunities that we've been able to utilize campus group for in this kind of COVID and more socially distanced world that we're really ensuring that we are moving forward with on campus from the fall into the spring. We also work really closely in our office with the Student Center. Our Student Center is really in the center of campus. It is considered by so many students to be our living room of campus, a place where students in a traditional year really gather, hold meetings, hold events. We have dining options in this building, both our primary dining hall, the 921, as well as Dunkin' Donuts. We have a Harry's Pub in the facility, and all of these dining options have been available in modified ways this year with COVID, and then we will be moving again to offer those programs and services in the spring. We have programming space in the Student Center. We also have a number of offices and campus services, as Christine mentioned, many of the lounges. We have our sacred space, we have departments in the student center. So it's really a place where students find both a sense of community and involvement and tradition, but also where you can get a lot of things done and really meet the needs that you have on our campus. So that is one area that we're really excited to share with you when you do join us in the physical campus in the future. Another area that our office works really closely with is our fraternity and sorority life program. We have 4 sororities on our campus and 7 fraternities. This makes up about roughly 20% of our undergraduate population. And these organizations are really woven into the fabric of what it means to be involved, to be a student leader, and to be part of kind of our social community at Bentley. So if this is something that students are interested in, we have far more information and details on our website, but we do see our fraternity and sororities as leaders in philanthropy, in community service, in academic achievement. They work very closely with our office on our racial justice efforts and their own work groups focused on social justice and equity and inclusion. So they really do help improve our community while also providing incredibly connected and meaningful spaces for students, both within chapters as well as across the fraternity and sorority life community as a whole. And then I'd just love to spend a moment to talk about our campus-wide programming and traditions. And we have a lot of traditions at Bentley. Most of them are grounded in things that our students plan, that our students want to see. And I'm really proud both in what the traditions are that we have, but also how we've been able to shift and adjust those traditions in light of our COVID response this semester. And I'll use an example of our Back to Bentley concert. We typically have 2 to 3 big concerts a year that we would normally host in our arena on campus. And this fall, as we welcome students back to campus, we wanted to make sure that we still provided that tradition. So our campus activities board worked very closely with our office to put on 2 virtual concerts with headlining artists. And what was exciting about that is it was a virtual show, but then it hosted a private, very unique to Bentley kind of live Q&A with the artist after that for any students that had attended. So we have been able to take our traditions and really alter them to make them still exciting and enticing for students and provide a sense of normalcy and engagement and tradition on our campus throughout what has been an otherwise somewhat unknown and unprecedented time for us at Bentley. So really excited to see those traditions kind of shift and change as we go into the spring and welcome you into our community, and look forward to seeing what new traditions our students can plan. Again, like I said, we have incredibly active student organizations that love to plan events. We had hundreds of events still happen this fall, and excited to see that continue. And as Christine mentioned, Bentley has really doubled down on our efforts and commitment to racial justice over the course of this year. And I'm incredibly proud of all the work that's come out of not only student programs and engagement, but also the Division of Student Affairs. And you can see some examples of that in our social justice and racial justice action planning for student programs and engagement, and how we've really overlapped that work with this engagement work in our office. So one last shout out will just be to the Bentley Speak page. This is one of our websites in SP&E. You can go there to find all the information I've talked about this morning, as well as a link to campus groups for our other web and virtual engagement platforms. So thank you so much. I hope this is helpful to provide a broad stroke of engagement on campus, and looking forward to answering any questions later on.
Thank you, Nicole. That was great information. Again, I'm Julia Matthews. I'm the interim director at the Health Center. And so I just want to provide you some information because I'm sure students and families are really interested, particularly in the time of this pandemic. How are we keeping students safe on campus? What access do they have to healthcare? So we want to reassure you that we had a really great fall semester. It was certainly different than we've seen at Bentley before, but we heard from many students that they were very happy to be on campus, even with the many restrictions that had to be in place regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. But there were many efforts around campus to keep things, as Nicole and Christine have been mentioning already, as normal as possible. But the health center is very central on campus, just right across from the student center. We've been very flexible and adaptable this year. Because of COVID, we were not seeing students right in our usual health center, but we had created a safe space area where our screening test site was separate, but very close to that. So it was still convenient for students to be seen if they did have symptoms related to COVID and needed to be assessed. We were able to do their testing and exams there in a private and safe space for them. And then this, because of the weather and the New England winter that's coming, we will be seeing students in our arena. So be assured that we will still have access to the health center during this time. And I'll tell you a little bit now about what kind of services we do have available. So students who are full-time, regardless of insurance, have access by being a student here to the health center. Appointments can be scheduled by phone. As I said, we were adaptable this year and we're doing telehealth visits for students as well as in-person care as needed. We are a nurse practitioner-led health center. We have a nurse, a vaccine coordinator, and a consulting physician at most times. We treat many injuries, different health conditions. So I would like students and families to think of the health center as somewhat of like a mini urgent care where you can come in with any concerns, if it's an ankle injury or a allergy issue or anything related to anxiety or sleep issues, kind of the run-of-the-mill things that students may find themselves dealing with here on campus. And we'll treat and diagnose, provide prescriptions as needed. And then we also, as nurse practitioners, we really pride ourselves on being able to provide targeted health education and take the time with our students to help them kind of move along to being younger students when they get here and moving on to their adulthood and really being able to go out into the world and advocate for themselves in a health setting. We can do lab testing, immunizations as needed, and any sort of general evaluation that's needed. In addition, for many students, we may just see them maybe once or twice during their time here at Bentley. For others, we very often can establish a long-term relationship with them if they have a chronic condition or want to do their general health care here. Women often will get their contraception, their pap smear, annual exams. We do STI testing for men and women. We have all kinds of services related to that. So think of it as a mini urgent care, but as well as a place where students can know that they can be seen throughout their time at Bentley. Our hours were business hours, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. And we also, when needed, can send students to our local urgent care. Bentley is pretty special in many ways, but not many universities have the ability to have their police force also be available to our students for transport. So if you're a student, obviously not all illnesses happen 9 to 5. So in that case, university police are available 24/7 and can transport students to local urgent care at Newton Wellesley or emergency room. So this is a good time to talk with your student about what kind of health insurance they have and how they would use that while they're on campus. In regard to health insurance, it is required in Massachusetts for all full-time students. For international students, they're required to enroll in the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, which is very comprehensive, a very good insurance plan that they have access to. They would be pre-billed every year for the university health plan, but they are able to waive that if they can show proof of comparable insurance. For domestic students, you must enroll or waive by January 4th, and for grad students, it's January 19th. We have very good support through university health plans. That website is there. So if you have questions about anything, you can contact the health center and also look at the university health plan website. So immunizations, things are a little bit different this year with COVID. You can see there's a list of required immunizations that will look familiar and then also recommended. At the top of the list this year is our flu vaccine. This is new. We all follow the Massachusetts state guidelines. And instead of the flu vaccine being recommended this year, it is required. And it is required to be, students need to be vaccinated by December 31st or upon their return to campus. Ideally, if your student is not vaccinated at this time, to get that done, make sure that they get documentation and upload it to their health portal. Any questions about that or concerns, the health center is always here and happy to answer any questions. But it is important to have your immunizations up to date, particularly this year, and we're happy to provide any further information on that. And by doing that, you're just keeping your student healthy, and our main point is to keep our campus and our students healthy and safe during this time. In regards to immunizations, very often, as Nicole was saying, things are different this year. Usually we run in the fall, we did have flu clinics on campus, but given the new guidelines, we won't be able to offer a flu clinic for students. So as I said, that needs to happen beforehand. We do have information on our website about local pharmacies to complete your flu vaccine, as well as the other vaccines. And the pharmacy can submit directly to your insurance, and students also may have other alternatives for payment by cash, check, or credit card. So anything related to immunizations, please do pay attention to that. Reach out to the health center in time before your student comes to campus, because if they are not immunized and uploaded all their information for us to verify, they will not be allowed on campus. And we certainly want all of our students who are ready to come back, we want to welcome them back directly. So related to COVID-19, as you know, the guidelines are changing on a regular basis. So right now, we assume that students to return to campus will need to show a negative COVID test to enter campus. I won't go into too much detail because there will be more information coming out from the university, exactly what kind of test, when it would be due, and how we can help you do that. But essentially, as we did in the fall, upon arrival, students, faculty, and staff will be participating again in the Bentley screening testing program, which was very successful in the fall. We had great organization for that. It didn't take much time. It actually became a place on campus that students and faculty and staff could say hello to each other in a very safe, social distanced way. And we made it very simple for everyone to participate in that. A daily self-screening is required, just checking your symptoms to make sure if you have any that you do not come to the screening test program. And then for students who may have symptoms, they would just contact the health center and we would be able to assess them, test them separately from others, and we can coordinate that for them. In the case, which we did have positive cases on campus, we have a whole team that is ready to help your student and help them make the decision as to whether they will isolate on campus or at home. And then we have staff who are also doing contact tracing to make sure that anyone that has been in contact with positive cases are also separated and supported during the time that they would need to quarantine. We also have partnered with our local Department of Public Health and the Mass COVID team through the State Health Department, who's providing excellent support to us to support our students and faculty and staff during this time. So we expect that to continue. And we've just been able to refine our process and make it even more supportive to our students as we go forward during this pandemic. So thank you very much for listening. I know that's a lot of information around health, insurance, COVID, so feel free to reach out to the health center at any time. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Julia. And I'm sure you're wondering where all of this happens. Well, it happens if you're a residential student on our campus, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the housing on campus and where it's configured, how it's configured. Most of the students that are coming in January will be in one of two areas, and the three areas on campus are laid out before you on this slide. The first year area is defined as three separate buildings that are in fairly close proximity to each other. They are Miller, Slade, and Trees, and these buildings are set up in a way that is in higher ed terms and university terms thought of as traditional housing. So that would be mostly doubles, a few singles, communal bathrooms. Typically a floor would be anywhere from 30 to 35 or 40 students. Each floor has an RA, and each building would have its own dedicated professional staff member, manager, or residence director that lives within the building and helps to manage the community. There are also suite style buildings, and they're located on main campus as well. And about the campus, it's actually laid out somewhat like a layer cake, with the top tier being where classes are held and some administrative buildings as well. The middle tier being largely dedicated to student life with residence halls, the student center that Nicole had mentioned, where meals are largely had. And then the bottom tier is largely dedicated to residential as well as athletic facilities. So the football field is there, the baseball field is there, soccer and so forth. The gym is there as well. So within this layer cake, the first year area is in the middle tier, where most of the student-centered facilities are located, from student center itself to the 921 to mail services, things like that. Suite style is spread between the middle tier and the lower tier, and then apartment style, which is the last style, is spread throughout campus up and down, and is intended to be for more independent living. The suite style, which I was getting to, is also being used this year in part for first year students in a small measure, and for incoming transfers. And suites are have common rooms, no full dedicated kitchen, and individual bedrooms and or double bedrooms off of the main common room. The difference between suite style and apartment style is that apartments have fully functioning kitchens, and anyone who lives in an apartment does not have to be on a university meal plan. First year and suite style are all compulsory meal plan buildings. Next slide, Tyler. So living on campus, we have a lot of students living on campus. Last fall, we had 2,100 or something like that. And that is actually a smaller number than we typically have by design. And among the precautions that we took from a residential perspective is to ensure that we didn't have quite as many students living in our same footprint. And one of the ways in which we accomplished that was by ensuring that if people wanted a single room and it was available, and we made many more available for incoming students, that's what they would get, a single room. So singles and doubles throughout. We also included some precautions relative to expectations and behavior. So masks are required throughout campus. And as Julia mentioned, we did have weekly screening, which everyone who lives on campus is required to go through. In addition, any student who is concerned about their well-being or health or the behavior of those around him or his own concerns can submit reports to us indicating that they need some help, and certainly RAs are on every floor and can be sought out for help as well. Campus is different this year, there's no question about it, and yet despite that, or maybe because of it, it is a very tightly knit community. And I think the students that have made the decision to live on campus have, and I think Julie had said that, have really enjoyed the experience, have certainly connected to one another. And one of the ways in which they do that is obviously the shared experience, but also how you eat, where you eat, and food is always a main component of community building. And for us this year, when we were contemplating opening campus in the fall and then finally went forward and did it, we gave a lot of thought, and the good folks at Sodexo and in purchasing services gave a lot of thought to how the meal plan would be constructed. And this year, more than any year before, there's a great deal of flexibility in the meal plan. There are any number of different venues where you can eat, and there are any number of different venues where you can actually pick up your food and go and eat either in your room or another location. When it was warm out, we did have some tents up so that people could eat out of doors, al fresco, as it were. I think as winter develops, that will probably become less popular an option, and we have taken down the tents, but still, we have apps like Grubhub that allow you to order in advance, come and pick up your food and go take it back to your room if that's where you want to eat, all prepackaged. If you're on a meal plan and you're on an unlimited meal plan, that means you can order a couple of meals if that's what you want. The venues for meals are located throughout that layer cake that I had mentioned. There is some food venues up on upper campus, so that if you're taking a hybrid class and going to class a couple of times a week, you can stop in and get coffee or a bagel at either an Einstein's or a lower cafe. Your primary meal locations are on main campus. That's where the large dining hall is located, the 921. There is a vendor there, Dunkin' Donuts, that is very popular as well, and you can purchase your food there using your card. It's not part of the meal plan. You'd have to pre-populate your card with your own funds, but it is great having a Dunkin' Donuts in the student center, and I know that I make probably too much use of it. But on lower campus, there is also a burrito place called Corritos, that's very popular. Again, order ahead, pick it up, and take it to eat where you want. So there's plenty of options for eating on campus, and there's even late night options. So beyond the time that the main dining hall is closed, you can come in and pick up a snack in our late night venue. And this is one of the ways in which people connect at socially distances, but certainly the shared experience, the sharing of food is very much still a thing on campus, and I'm happy about that. In terms of move-in dates and information, a number of people before me have alluded to the fact that, you know, we're kind of running with everyone else here, and we're trying to keep track of all the state guidelines as they change and the environment. As of now, we're still at January 14th for incoming new students, and that information will be coming your way, continue to come your way via your Bentley email account. I know BL and her team are messaging out to you relative to orientation. I know that the housing team will also continue to be messaging out to you. So please make sure that you check your brand new email account, your Bentley account. That will be the primary way in which you get information directly from us. Obviously, also check the website. As Julie indicated, move-in will include some pre-screening, as well as some expectations in regards to flu vaccine, as well as, at this point anyway, expectations regarding a negative COVID test, proof of a negative COVID test in the prior 72 hours. As or if the situation changes, we will communicate with you as quickly as we can, and we appreciate your flexibility as we move into what promises to be an exciting spring semester. And with that, I will turn it over to Tyler again. Or BL.
Well, yeah, well, thank you all so much. That was a lot of wonderful information. And we realized that we want to open up a space for some live Q&A. So if you could go ahead and add any of the questions that you might have to our Q&A bubble, we'd be happy to get to those now. And panelists, if you would turn your screens back on, that would be lovely. All right, so we do have a few questions, so I will go ahead and read those and assign them to panelists as needed. So for our first question, I want to direct this to Julia. Julia, how are we working to keep our students safe on campus? What are some of the logistics? What are some of the pieces that we've been really focusing on?
Thanks, BL. I'd like to start with just by saying there are lots of protocols and guidelines and all that, but just really first to start with say it's starting from the top with our president, with the Dean of Student Affairs. We have an emergency management team. People are meeting on a very regular basis to take in the new guidelines that are coming from the Centers for Disease Control, from the Massachusetts Department of Health. We have excellent relationships with all of these organizations to make sure that we are up to date and consistent with guidelines that are changing very rapidly, as you know. So just as an overview, that's where Bentley stands. As John and I have already mentioned, before your student gets to campus, there will be very detailed information sent. So the idea is that before students get to campus, and you can start thinking about this ahead, we want people to be reducing their risk before they get here, so they would be able to test negative for COVID-19 and present that documentation to us prior to coming to campus. So we're starting, number one, to bring students and faculty and staff back who are healthy, who do not have COVID. Number two, our screening test program. We've done it all fall. We are ramped up and ready to continue to do that this spring semester. Given the New England winter, we will not be out in the Miller parking lot anymore. We will be in a building and with an excellent filtration system and all the systems in place to keep that testing safe. You may have heard of a lot of different tests out there. Right now, we are using a nasal swab that is very simple. It's a simple nasal swab, And the testing that we're doing is with the Broad Institute, which you may also have heard. It's a partnership of MIT and Harvard. The results are back usually within 24 to 48 hours, which is very reassuring, because if we do have positive cases, we're able to get to them immediately. And as much as the health center typically works Monday through Friday, in the time of COVID, when a positive test result comes up, we are contacting students within hours of receiving that test, which is not what the state can do. That's not possible for them to react so quickly. So we're taking that responsibility to get to anyone who has a positive test, make sure they know how to care for themselves, and then do the contact tracing that needs to happen to keep others safe on campus. In terms of protocols, all the things that we've all heard, we put our masks on, we social distance 6 feet apart. John went through in detail about how dining is safe. And then when we do have a positive case, we have opportunities to isolate them on campus. And this doesn't mean sending them off somewhere where no one talks to them for the 10 or 14 days that they're going to be away from the general population. They are connected with dining services, with residential life. People are checking in on them on a regular basis from the Bentley campus, as well as from the contact tracers who work with us through the state. So with that whole amount of care that we're taking, you can be assured that we're doing our best to keep students safe on campus.
Thank you, Julia. I appreciate that. All right, our next question, and I know we did dig into this a little bit, but would love for us to chat a little bit more, is how are students really going to be able to make friends if they are coming to campus or if they're planning to learn remotely? So I want to start with John to talk a little bit about the on-campus piece, and Nicole, if you could speak to the bigger picture of what does engagement look like, whether you're on campus or remote.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Bill. I think the on-campus piece and the remote piece are actually coming closer together as the result of some of the technology that we now have available. But you know, students on campus certainly see each other more frequently in person than would remote students, and yet there is also a component of interaction that is actually video-based for on-campus students. So if you're on campus, you can take your class in your classroom or in another quiet space or whatever space you deem appropriate. You will see your other classmates there on your video screen. You will be able to interact with them in a virtual way, and if they happen to be on campus, actually reach out to them and interact with them at socially distant, with socially distant measures, but talk with them in person. A hallway is still a hallway, so as you walk out to get your food, you're still going to see one another. There are opportunities to see each other, certainly in the student center, opportunities to see each other when it's available in the gym as you walk around campus. So even though we have a smaller population than we typically do, it is still vibrant in its own way. And those connections do happen. I know that the first year students that were here in the fall are very eager to get back. And to me, that is always a telltale sign that there is an environment going on here that they feel connected to, that they want to be a part of. And that has not changed. And if anything, honestly, it feels stronger.
Thanks so much, John. And just to build on that a little bit, I want to make sure that everyone understands some of the really structured and intentional programs that will take place at the start of the semester to help ensure that we can foster these connections as well. And some of that will start right away with your orientation program in January, and BL and her team working with that to plan a really exceptional program, again, whether virtual or in person, for people to build those connections and relationships. And then the student programs and engagement team really picks up once the semester kicks off and classes begin, planning our Winter Welcome Back program, which will be an extended program this year, offering the activities fair with student organizations available for people to get involved and sign up. Some virtual programs, some in-person programs, again, just trying to foster those opportunities where people can make connections. And we are also focused really intentionally on some first-year programming for first-year students and new students this year, with some partners in the Peace Project and pulling together some community conversations and storytelling opportunities to really help people get to know one another in a little bit more of an expedited fashion, because it's harder to do that, we recognize. But to John's point, I think we still have to maximize the opportunities that we have to connect with folks, to meet with folks, and we're really trying to be intentional to provide those structures to do that as well. So we think that it's going to be, you know, again, to build on that vibrant community from the fall, a great community to come into for the first time, and for our returning students to come back to be able to continue building those connections and relationships.
Wonderful, thank you both. Another question just came in, and I was wondering if I could direct this to you, Christine, and then if anyone else would like to jump in, please feel free to do so. But we have a question about Bentley's reaction in regards to racial justice. And Christine, I know you did mention a few pieces that your team is currently working on, but was there anything else that you'd like to share in regards to our reaction?
Sure. Thank you for bringing this up. I think that it's important to note that university-wide, there has actually been a really impressive response, I think. We, over the summer, when a lot of this really started to take a very prominent place in the news, we had a bunch of community-wide forums. We had some student involvement over the summer, which is pretty unusual, and it was really encouraging and exciting. And that led to a number of really great university-wide initiatives. We have added a position on our cabinet for our chief diversity officer. We have added a racial justice task force, which is campus-wide, and it involves everyone from staff and faculty to students, alumni. Everyone is working together to really make the positive changes that Bentley needs to see. And that has trickled down to every department having their own goals related to racial justice, as well as all the student orgs and student groups have really come together to make Bentley a better, more inclusive and anti-racist space. So I'm really proud of a lot of the work that we're doing. And a lot of it is highlighted on the Bentley website if people want to go a little bit deeper and find out more about that.
Thanks, Christine. And you're right, this is action, progress forward. And it's been really wonderful to see the community really come together. Still a lot more work to do, but really hopeful of the direction that we're moving. So thank you for answering that. All right, so we have another question. Speaking to classes, what is it like being in the classroom? Is it safe to be in the classroom? So Julia, I know you have spoken to some of the kind of precautionary pieces that Bentley's been taking. Could you dig into that a little bit more in regards to the classroom?
Sure, and I think it's an important question, Miguel, because right, it feels much more normal to be having some classes in person, and Bentley has been able to offer hybrid classes. So maybe a student, when I talk to most students, they have at least one or two that they can go into the classroom, and faculty are really encouraging it. They're making the effort. So faculty need to be tested when they come to campus. Anyone who comes to the campus for any reason, even if it's just to go to the library once during the week, they are in our testing program. So just from the outset, it feels safe in that way. In the classroom itself, physically, all of the desks are socially distanced by 6 feet. Everyone, including the faculty member teaching the class, are wearing masks. Protocols are in place that, things aren't handed around. People are, even when we've talked to students who have become ill, we know that it wasn't from the classroom. We found that a lot of the cases are from small gatherings that weren't sanctioned, or people going home, even to vote. Being off campus was another reason that people get sick. So it was not, when we looked into cases, it was not from being in a classroom. So that's very reassuring. I think that's all I have to say about that, but I know someone else was going to talk a little bit more just about the modalities that are in place.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in with that. And I know that at the start of our live chat, we had referenced the Back to Bentley website, and I would highly encourage anyone to go to that website, because there are a lot of updates, and it really does dive into even more detail of some of the topics that we're discussing with you all today. But on that website, it also digs into a little bit of how are our classes being taught? What does that look like? And so there's 3 different ways that our courses are being delivered as we go into this spring trimester. So we have live in person, which is denoted as hybrid. And this is what Julia was just speaking to. And then we also have synchronous online and asynchronous online. So for our students joining us in January, you will be selecting your courses that first week of January, working with your academic advisor and making sure that we can build the best possible slate of courses for you for this upcoming trimester. So as you work with your advisor, you'll be able to kind of speak through what are some of these opportunities, what are the different availabilities for your courses, so that way you'll be prepared as you start classes very soon on January 19th to be prepared for the modality that your class will be in. What I would offer with that as well is knowing that for those of you who might be new to New England, we do have some not so great weather in the winter sometimes, and that sometimes results in what we call snow days. Knowing that we have this wonderful technology and functionality, we will be able to make sure that students have access to courses all the time through remote course learning, regardless of whether you might have some courses that are hybrid or not. So a lot more to come with that, and we will dig in really deeply during the orientation program, but just wanted to speak a little bit to what those class modalities look like.
Miguel, can I just add one more thing? We talked about people's behavior in the classroom, also the environment. We're following all the guidelines around filtration systems in the buildings, as well as disinfecting desks and classrooms. And so just to know that all of those disinfectant wipes and guidelines are being followed too. So that's just another reassurance around being in the classroom as possible.
Wonderful. And actually that leads us to our next question, which is about how are we keeping our campus clean? What does that look like? John, would you mind speaking to this a little bit?
Sure. We have a very dedicated facility staff that has redoubled their efforts to ensure that every residence hall, every classroom space, every office space is cleaned with greater frequency this year than ever before. They've certainly gone out and purchased some devices that, whether it's filtration devices or whether it's actual disinfecting devices that are strapped onto their backs and are actually sprayed over surfaces. And they're pretty pervasive. So every classroom is cleaned in between classes. Every residence hall is cleaned at least twice daily. And if somebody does happen to contract the virus, then the space that they've inhabited is cleaned immediately. And folks aren't allowed to access that until it is cleaned. As the spaces that are used for isolation and or quarantine are also cleaned immediately upon vacating those spaces by the students. And it's been a partnership really between the facilities folks and the community. And whether it's cleaning the gym itself on a regular basis, the workout facility, or whether it's cleaning the residence halls or the dining hall, they've moved furniture to ensure that the density of a place is going to be in keeping with state guidelines. They've done tremendous work and they will continue to. And I guess I also wanted to add one more thing, BL. And even though I think the university has gone to tremendous lengths to ensure that the environment itself is ready to receive students, it is the students themselves that have really contributed the largest part of our compliance. They have been wonderful. They have largely kept inside of the guidelines, and it really doesn't work without them. And I think for those of you that are contemplating coming here, and I hope there's a few of you on this call, the community you're about to join is a community that is joined in ensuring that we keep the campus open, joined in ensuring that we keep as many people as possible healthy. And that speaks well to the community. And I think it speaks well to Bentley as well. So I just wanted to say that. I'm sure that we're all wicked smart and all, but it is also the students that are very much contributing.
I appreciate that, John. Thank you so much. And I would echo what you say. I think this is a really wonderful community, and it does take a community effort for us to have a successful trimester. Whether you are joining us on campus, whether you are learning remotely, we know that this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for us to come together, to learn, to grow, to engage, and to stay healthy while doing so. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our time together today. Please feel free to reach out to us via email with any additional questions that you might have. When in doubt, you are always welcome to email orientation@bentley.edu, and we can ensure to get you in contact with any of our panelists or anyone else across campus. So thank you so much, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day. Take care.